The Simple Series, Volume 99, The Adventures of Darwin. If the theory of evolution is real, and we came from monkeys, why come they're still monkeys? Checkmate science. The Genshijin, or in English known as The Primitive Man, or by its European release as Darwin, or once further by its US release as The Adventures of Darwin. Yes, it's one of those few Simple Series games that got a worldwide release, and is quite possibly one of the greatest Pikmin clones that sadly very few gamers know about. Shortly after my adventures with Zombie Virus, I became interested in the games being developed by vingt-et-un Systems, whom developed both of these titles. As a developer, they've dipped into so many styles and genres of games, and maybe invented a few along the way, that I just had to see what else was in store from them. Released only 2 months after Zombie Virus, The Adventures of Darwin made its way to niche gamers' collections in mid-2006. I do remember seeing copies of this at GameStop back in the day, and thinking it was some sort of Lemmings clone, and ultimately, I ignored it. High school me made a lot of poor choices, one of which includes having a bowl cut, but passing up The Adventures of Darwin is one of the more egregious entries added to that very long list. Okay, so get this, you play as a monkey named Darwin. How clever. And one night, he has a premonition in his dreams about the fate of Earth. A deadly premonition, if you will, because he dreams about a meteor that is set to wipe out the world. Unless, of course, he and his crew of monkey bros collect enough sticks and mushrooms to fortify their huts and therefore meteor-proof them, or something along those lines. You start off as Monkey Darwin in your tiny little village of one hut. This acts as your home base where you manage activities and resources, but this whole process is mostly automated for you, so it's not as overly complex as some simulations or RTSs I've played. In fact, I'm very hard-pressed to compare this game to anything I've played outside of Pikmin, but that doesn't even do this game justice alone. So Darwin recruits some monkeys from the bar to help him go out in the jungle to get materials to bring back to town to thereafter grow and improve the technology within. You have a set amount of monkeys you can take with you at once, but as you find golden stars on the field or after boss fights, you can then increase the amount of monkeys in your squad, up to a max of 30 by endgame. Darwin and company start the game out pretty slow, as you're limited in how many pickups you can carry back to base at one time until you start to add more members to your team. Each item on the field has a certain weight, so you need a certain amount of guys to pick it up, then take it to one of the exits on the field. There are also enemies on the field to defeat, and depending on the amount of dudes you have and that particular weapon you're using, it will determine how successful you are in your hunts. Honestly, most of the fights are easy affairs, and become even more so when you build your weapon shop up and receive the bow and arrow, which is possibly the most broken weapon in the game, but still fun. The bow and arrow allows you to snipe enemies from afar and take out aerial enemies too. What's really cool is that you can immediately eat the carcasses of your fallen enemies to rebuild your unit's strength. Somewhat like Tokyo Jungle, but without the constant fear of starvation. Eat that meat and you'll be good. As you progress, you'll unlock new formations for your team, and the formations not only make traveling around the dangerous narrow spots on the field easier, but some of the formations will give you perks like higher attack or defense. Keep in mind that Darwin has a health meter, and if it runs out, he dies and it's game over. Your crew, on the other hand, is completely expendable, so kill them as much as you want. If you lose a monkey, you can always revive them with a red star on the map, but you can't go over your capped amount of monkeys. Does that make sense? My suggestion is, when you get to a new area, run out into the field, look for all the yellow stars, collect them, and that'll streamline a lot of this process for you. Building up your crew is essential to progress in this game, and if you want to collect a lot more materials at one time and build up your village faster, then you gotta have more monkeys on your crew. To make another comparison to Pikmin, there are certain certain walled off sections to each of the areas in the game that won't allow you to progress until you have a set number of monkeys to knock down the wall or move an object out of the way. The deeper you explore the map, the rarer materials you'll find, and there are little exit caves and shortcuts to find, so you don't have to trek all the way back to the entrance with your spoils. This saves a lot of the player's time, and I truly appreciate that consideration. Every item you collect and monster you defeat gets added to your collection book, which by the end of the game, if you 100% that book, it'll net you an alternate ending, one I haven't received yet. Every time you carry back stuff to the village, each material nets your town some experience, and you might gain a new level. When your town levels up, a new building is usually added, and each building has a certain function to aid you in your quest. Sometimes buildings will get added based on specific types of material that you brought back to town. So say you delivered a lot of wood, a wooden gem might be added, and that gives your crew the perk of faster movement for 6 days at a time. It's really nifty, so build up that wood. I don't think I've mentioned it, but this game is absolutely fucking crazy, and it always keeps adding new stuff to keep you interested. It's very fast paced, and watching your village evolve in real time with each new boss defeated, or material brought back or level gained is highly rewarding and keeps the player engaged throughout. I guess one of the biggest challenges in this game are the boss fights, but what's really interesting about them is you can actually walk by all the boss fights in the game, with the exception of one, bust down a wall, and get a new piece of technology which will instantly evolve your entire village. Oh yeah, and if you do want to go back and beat the boss, they'll just hang out and wait for you until you want to get down. But if you beat them, it'll net you a yellow star, so it is worth it in the end. Once Darwin gets a new piece of technology, he will evolve from monkey to man-ape, from man-ape to Cro-Magnon, and from Cro-Magnon to human. And each evolution gives your team new perks and ways to play. For instance, when you evolve from Cro-Magnon to human, the language of your village evolves with it, and the inhabitants will form complete sentences. Neat little details like that set it above Pikmin in some ways. You can check in on your town's bulletin board to keep up with the plethora of new additions, or you can speak with the villagers to gather hints from them directly. Even though their offerings are very obvious suggestions, it's great to think about how much the developers planned ahead to write each evolution of the language. Every piece of technology you acquire opens up a new map on the hub world for you to explore, and it will allow you to advance further in previous areas, giving you a reason to revisit them, Metroidvania style. The game runs on a real-time engine, and as far as I know, that only affects when monsters on the field sleep, so you can get some sneak attacks in. It also affects the buffs for your crew and the amount of light for you to see the objects on the field. But you eventually get a torch later on, so that kind of helps out. One of the biggest complaints I heard about the original Pikmin was,
"It's too stressful with the time system, and I refuse to replay it for a second time with new knowledge or manage my time better to get good, so I dropped that game."
Well, if you're one of those guys who hates time limits or a real challenge in your game, then you'll be happy to know that you can spend as much time as you want out in the field without consequences in The Adventures of Darwin, which does make it a little easier than the first Pikmin game. Alright, let's wrap this up. As I've grown older, I rarely play an entire game from cover to cover in one sitting, but damn, if The Adventures of Darwin didn't win me over with its charm and ambition instantly. You start off thinking it's gonna be a dollar store Pikmin clone with a Jimmy Neutron soundtrack. Just when you think you figured out what this game was all about, and you started your day as a band of monkeys glowing twigs together with poo-poo mud, you flash to 7 hours later and suddenly you're humans fighting Zeus on a spaceship, then upon beating him, he gives you a handgun to kill yourself with. Expectations exceeded. Based vingt-et-un. Thank you for watching episode 2 of the Simple series. This is a series that I'd just love to keep on going with because I'm just discovering new shit left and right. So if you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. You don't even have to like it or you don't have to subscribe. I don't even give a fuck. I'll see you later.